Hey everyone, it's Tina Forsyth here. I am very glad and excited to be joined by David Jenyns of Systemology. I have my book here,
Oh,
David.
very good. Thank
It's
you.
right on I've got a number of books that like sit right on my desk here, and yours is one of them. So, yeah, I'm very happy to be talking with you today about certification and your journey around that, and all things that have been going on with your program. So, tell us about your certification program.
Hmm.
Like, what is it about? What are you certifying folks in, and who is it for?
Mm. So Systemology is like a system for systemizing business and particularly small business. So I wrote the book first and kind of formalized the methodology, and we certify business coaches and consultants in that particular type of methodology. So it's kind of like a specific systems consultant strain. Like there's different approaches like Lean and Six Sigma and total quality management, and some of those methodologies work for different sizes of businesses. Those particular methodologies, though, aren't really great for small business. So I kind of said, well, this is the area that we're going to lean into. And yeah, we work with business coaches and consultants who haven't quite dialed in their niche, and maybe their offer feels a little bit like everybody else's. It's a bit blah, and they have challenge with scope creep, and maybe they haven't quite got their sales dialed in, and they need a system. And that's, we kind of have developed a bit of an end-to-end certification from generating leads, converting those leads, delivering a very specific product with a very specific outcome, and working with clients over a longer frame. So we basically bottled up what we were doing, and that's what we certify people in.
So were you doing this same work through your own business before you started certifying people?
Yes, so that's
Yeah.
um, I was working with clients one on one and taking them through the same approach, and very quickly tapped out on the amount of time that I had. That was probably a big part of what drove me to set up the certification.
Mhm.
I got a chance to really work on it and dial it in and feel confident that this works because I've made it work for myself. And then we thought, right, well, how do we bottle that up, particularly off the back of the book? Because I was doing a lot of the consulting prior to the book coming out. And
Yeah.
that was when I was really perfecting the methodology. And then when the book came out, that created a lot more demand than I had supply on my time. So
Yeah.
that was kind of like the moment where we said, oh, we need to make some sort of adjustment here.
So was that when because your book came out, what, 2020, right? Like just a few
Yes.
years
Yep.
ago. Um,
Yep.
I feel like it was out longer than that. I don't know. The past few years have been weird
A
for all of
big
us
blur.
that way. Yeah. But so was it, had you planned on offering a certification program when you were launching the book, or did it come after the book, or why did certification come into the mix?
Very shortly after the book, it was definitely an idea that was there. It wasn't until the
Yeah.
book was launched that we really moved on it, but it was kind of like just sitting in the back of my brain. And I had a couple of colleagues that I was working alongside, Eric Putnam and Bill Doer, and they had been in other certification networks and watched them grow, things like Profit First and Duct Tape
Yeah.
Marketing. And they had got some really good insight into what was working, what didn't work, where do things get stuck. And they put forward the idea. They said, look, this framework would be prime for certification, and we could really help to guide you through. So that was, the seed was planted. And then once the book was launched, and I thought, oh, the message was really hitting the market well and responding well, and we were picking up some momentum, and we started to build up the database, and people were hopping on the list. And then that was kind of, we thought, okay, we've got getting some traction now.
And when did you launch the certification then?
Certification was about 6 months after the book launch.
Mm.
So it came together reasonably quickly. The first group, I suppose, like all certification, was probably a little bit rough around the edges, and a lot of figuring out it as we go, and a lot of sort of demands on my time to kind of just make sure it all happened. But we're up to, I think, maybe about cohort number 8 now. So in every group that goes through, we just perfect the system a little bit further. But I think it would have been very early 2021. So the book came out August 2020, and sort of early 2021 is then when we launched the group.
What are some of the things that have changed since that first group? I know I always kind of joke about my first program. The first time I ran my certification program years ago, it was like, I look at it now and I'm almost like, yikes,
Yes.
not to say that's yours by any means, but mine was like 14 years ago now. But it is interesting to see, like the first time around is always a little bit of, oh, okay, let's put this out there and see what happens. But like, what have you found most successful or effective?
Definitely some of the biggest changes I made compared to the early groups. A lot of the early groups was me in teaching mode, and I would just hop on those first couple of calls and talk. And it felt like it was less about the participants demonstrating knowledge. Like I've really changed that now. A lot of the learning happens off the calls, and they're learning in the portal, and they're going through the trainings, and it's really well thought out, and there's workbooks and additional exercises, and they have a buddy with it. They meet up and they get a chance to test the work that they're doing prior to coming to the live calls, and then we're doing hot seats. So the actual calls themselves have changed quite significantly in the delivery. Also probably listening a lot to the participants to find out the areas where they needed the most help, particularly around marketing and sales. That really flowed up. Like a lot of the coaches and consultants, they'd learn how to deliver Systemology. They were great practitioners. That was the easy part for them. But then when it came to talking to business owners, generating business, closing, that was an area we felt that a lot of the systemologists need some additional assistance on. So we kind of really leaned into that. We developed a lot of material and engaged some consultants, and ended up launching like a sales intern program where you can get fed leads from head office, just so you can get on a Zoom call and get some time on the wall, some practice, and just see what it's like talking to a real business owner. So that was definitely a lot of the changes, particularly over the last few cohorts.
Yeah. So there's folks are coming through just from your work being out there about Systemology with the book and everything. And then you have people that are flowing through to your certified folks.
Yes. Yeah. And we've also got our System Hub software. So that's people can also come in through the software, and then we'll go, oh, great. Well, do you want to chat with a certified systemologist? The certified systemologist can open the discussion about the software, but then it naturally flows to, and would you like some help with that?
Yeah. Because you have the software with your program. I forgot about that, which is such another really nice way to kind of marry, marry the software and the certification model together that way. Like how has that, how have they kind of helped each other in that sense?
We have a few different things that systemologists learn to deliver. They can sell our online program. We have a program called the Business Systems Accelerator, and they can effectively buy it wholesale and they resell it. And then some of them bundle in some consulting on top of that. There's a group program, and then there's the done for you where they work one-on-one with a client. So they can run a group program as one option, or they can work directly. And it's really just how quickly does the client want to move and how much does the client want to invest? And really everything's kind of integrated together with the software and the training and the work that the systemologist does. Because no matter how they engage with a systemologist, we always still suggest that the companies that are recruiting the systemologist develop what we call a systems champion, someone inside their organization that effectively gets schooled underneath the systemologist, and our training and the software is what the systems champion learns off, and then effectively they're being overseen by the systemologist. So it really kind of all rolls into one, where there's not a very clear end in one product and then a start in the next. It's kind of like an ecosystem with training, software, the work that
Yeah.
the systemologist does, and we sort of have a community off the back of it as well for systems champions.
Oh, very cool. So, and then as people are coming into Systemology and coming into System Hub, like the software side, like one, that's where they're building everything out, and there's the ongoing, the recurring revenue side of
Yes.
things from that perspective too, in a
Yeah.
software sense. Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. That's definitely a model you see. I mean, not everybody has software. I always like to look through that lens of like, not everybody has software, nor does everybody need to have software. But like when you do, woohoo, can be a very good
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
Just
And for both, right? Like, I mean, it's just and it gives something for the systemologist too, for them to really be able to plug into with their
yes.
clients as well. Yeah.
It's oftentimes as well with the software, it's the discussion point or the starting point. Oftentimes when people think, let's say, about
Yeah.
systemizing, they think, oh, what software am I going to use to get this working in my business? It's oftentimes the first one, and it's a very surface level discussion because it's the shiny, bright object. It's
Yeah.
what is the software, but then it's the systemologist can progress deeper in that conversation and go, you know what? Shiny software on its own isn't going to build a systems culture. You're going to have to build up, your team and get buy-in from them and get everybody on board. And it's not just about software. And that's kind of then gives them a chance to introduce systemology.
Yeah. Like it's an entry point that people
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
lot of curiosity around, but it's certainly not the thing they need.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
not the only thing they need, I should say. Like it's the
Yeah.
software alone isn't going to do the trick, right? They got to do everything else around that. Yeah. What about like what would you say are some of the bigger lessons or challenges along the way? Now that you've gone, a couple of years, 8 cohorts that have gone through the program with you.
I think we were lucky to definitely navigate quite a few of the common challenges with Eric and Bill. As I said, they kind
Yeah.
of got to draw on some of the other certifications. So they definitely saved a few arrows in my back as you kind of go. I think uh, building up a certification, it's not any different from any other business, I suppose, in that you just have to think about who your target audience is, what their challenges are, and how you can build a great solution for them. And you still
Yeah.
have to go through that work, and you still have to support that client, and you still have to get them a great result. I think it takes a lot of hard work. If I look back now and think, what are some things that I might have done differently? I think probably more in maybe the way that we marketed or attracted systemologists into our world. We did a lot of it very organically just off the back of the book, as in people would read the book, they'd get in on
Yeah.
our list. But I think knowing that it plays a significant part of the work that we do, I think creating lead magnets and interesting things to attract potential systemologists into our world, not
Mm,
necessarily even to sign up, just to get them aware of systemology. I think I would do more of that early on. Like we're starting to do more of it now. Um,
yeah.
but that's, and it's hard to know if I would have done that first, because maybe part of it also is just proving the model. Like we might have had to have put the first number of groups through to figure out what was interesting to the target audience, these coaches and consultants, and where do they get stuck? Because that then is
Yeah.
going to feed back into now how we create additional materials to attract them into our world.
Well,
Trying to
even
think
that
of,
that whole idea too, like you were saying, having the support of the two guys you mentioned, Eric and Bill, I think you said.
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
like having that support up front too of somebody who, they're familiar with the model, they've been involved in, they'd seen what was going on with some other folks doing this. I always say too, certification, it's not a model where, especially in our online space, where people can just kind of like, oh, let me just throw it out there and see what happens kind of thing. Like you
Yeah.
do have to be really purposeful and strategic and really thoughtful, when we're approaching a model like this, because there's so much on the line too.
Yeah.
It's like they're
I,
taking your methodology, they're taking systemology, they're taking your brand, they're representing it, they're
yeah,
implementing it, they're out there advocating for it. And they really need
I
to be doing a good
agree.
job
Like we did
around
a
that.
huge amount of thinking before around who the ideal systemologist would be. We had to think about pricing. We had to think about how we license it out, what can and can't they do, how do they present as far as like they're a independent consultant as part of the Systemology network. Like they're not an employee of Systemology. So there's considerations around how that happens. And then there was additional things to think about, like if we're feeding leads into systemologists and they've been generated from head office, then does the client feel like they've got the relationship with us? And then if something doesn't go right, who then is on the line as far as making good for the client? There's a whole range of different things that we needed to think through and navigate through, thinking about what else is going on in the marketplace and what is the right pricing and what are the right inclusions and what level of support do they need. I know there are some people that do licensing and you pay a fee and then you're licensed forever, but there's no real actual certification part and there's no ongoing support after the initial boot camp. So we wanted to build more of a ongoing community where we continue to deliver and grow and support each other. So we took a different approach for that. Like there's some ongoing licensing as well. It's not just an upfront thing, but then that enables us to tip back into growing the community.
Yeah. So folks, once they become certified, they're a part of the community and they continue to pay a fee for that over time.
Yes.
Like a annual fee or whatever.
Like it's reduced, but the idea is you just want you want them to be there, as in I'm making a commitment to be here as opposed to I'm here by default.
Yeah, I have my program structured the same way, and we always have from day one. Like as folks become certified online business managers, in our case, because we have the association, which is kind of the home of the certification, they need to remain members of the association to maintain their certification status and continue to get, there's value and resources and support and all kinds of things that come along with that too. But yeah, I personally, when I'm helping folks create certifications, I'm very much a fan of let's look at that renewal piece for all kinds of reasons. Like you were saying, there's a monetary aspect to consider for sure over time, but there's also are you still engaged? Are you still doing this? Are you still excited about this? Like, folks can do what they want to do and move on to different things, but I don't want somebody out there representing themselves as like a certified OBM when they haven't done it for 10 years or something.
Yes.
Right. It's just kind of like, not really a fit anymore.
Yeah.
So the community aspect is really, I think is really powerful too, versus there's lots of models, like you were saying, where folks will get licensed or certified and okay, done, one and done, go do your thing. Even too, though, when you were talking about the first time you did the program was a lot of talking, but a lot of you talking and then shifting the way that like learning journey or learning experience for folks too. That's another biggie that, we've learned that in recent years as well with some changes we made to our program too, where it's like, it's not enough to just sit and people don't learn by listening to us talk about stuff. Like they really, they don't. It's like, we might think, they might even think they do, or we might think they do, but when we don't understand that learning kind of methodology behind it. But that idea of how you have your buddies and your calls and your hot seats and, all the other stuff that they're doing as well with that.
Watching that output is the best way for me to really determine what they need as well. Like when they're doing a hot seat and they're doing a critical client flow and they're submitting it inside the portal when they've worked with their buddy or with a trial business or something like that, seeing that material is the best gauge of, is the training working? Are they getting it? What additional support do they need? So I only realized that, like I said, a couple of times after we'd run the group. That said, though, I might also have needed to run those first few groups the way that I did, because that's the way that the material really got developed and honed. So it
Yeah.
might just be part of the
Yep.
rite of passage that the first couple of groups that you run are very teachy before you then really lock everything down. And then the mode shifted slightly, and it was really about, are the participants getting it and can they demonstrate they've got it?
What is your testing process like? Like, are they, in order for them to become certified, like, are they doing things throughout the program, or how do they earn that certification status?
Initially, and we've only just recently changed this, we used to have that they would submit to case study clients at the end of the program. They'd get real world businesses and they'd take them through the methodology from start to finish. And then
Yeah.
they'd submit that and then we'd review it. We'd even outreach to the clients to get the client to give like a rating. How did you enjoy working with the systemologist? That has recently shifted now, where it's evolved more into like you submit a bunch of examples for the various different stages and we review it, but it doesn't have to be a live client and we don't need to engage with the client. Because a few of our systemologists were like, I don't really like the idea that I'm selling this at full price and then it makes it sound like I'm not certified when you
Oh,
reach
yeah.
out, and they just thought it was a bit clunky. So we said, look, the main thing for us is to have you demonstrate that you understand how to apply everything. And if we get that, then we're comfortable to certify.
Yeah. That idea too, though, of them like doing the work and then getting an evaluation of it. Like
Yeah.
that's ultimately when people ask too, that idea of like, what's the difference between just a straight out license versus a certification? It's like a certification involves a testing process of some kind where you
Yes.
feel confident to like put your stamp on them, so to speak, right? Like for them to represent your brand and such. We did that too, David. Like we run our certification. We call it certification week in our case with our certified OBMs or pre-certified OBMs, I guess you could say. But they go through a number during a 1 week period. They get a number of projects that they work on that week that they submit. And that's after they've completed the training and everything. And yeah, once upon a time, we used to do we used to go out and get real different projects every single time from other business owners and such out there. And we got to a certain point where it was like, whew, that's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Like, so now everything's standard. Everybody gets the
Yeah.
same projects. Everybody works on the same projects. We've got our grading rubrics. We've got our whatever. We've got our criteria. Like it's all a lot more streamlined that way, but still meets the same objective of like, all right,
Yes.
show us what you got kind of thing, right? Like, let's see how this information is landed for you and such. Yeah.
And I think a big part of the way that we do things now is where we're quite particular on the people on the way in, as in the questionnaire that they fill out, the interview process. It's not just, we're not looking for any warm body to fill a seat. We're quite particular with knowing that systemologist that we select really it adds a different dynamic to our own community. So we've got to get the right people in. And then also when they're out there delivering to clients as well, as you said, they're representing our brand. So we need to make sure that we feel really great about them. So we did go through a process of creating like a scorecard. So when we got applicants that come through and we have an idea of what an ideal person is, and we ask the right questions, and we're not just looking for, like, we really want someone with business experience. Either they're an
Yeah.
existing coach or consultant, or they've run their own business for a long time. There's a lot of things that you just can really only learn through the school of hard knocks. And we don't want the systemologist be doing that learning on the client's dime. You kind of want the person to come pre-baked with a lot of that. And then we're teaching them how to really take their consulting to the next level.
It's interesting too, because folks might show up and say, I really want to do this. It's like, just because you want to do it doesn't mean necessarily that you're ready for it or that it's a fit for you too, right? Because that's another distinction I find, especially with certification compared to like just general training at large. Like if
Yep.
somebody's just taking a more general training program about, hey, you want to learn all about systems and apply it to your own business, we're not going to be as picky about
Yep.
who is that person and where are they at and so on. But it's like, no, wait a minute, you want to be a systemologist and you want to work with clients and represent the brand and be certified and all of that. Like, yeah, we do want to be picky with
Yeah.
that for
Want to make
sure.
sure that they're a success, because we also invest a lot of
Exactly.
time and energy to get them up and running. And if
Yeah.
they're not a success, or then they can't make things work for them, well, they're not going to stick around. They're not going to do a great job representing the brand. They're just not
Yeah.
going to be happy and, uh, in the community. Like you really want to try and get a community of people that are making it happen. So that's probably another big part of it as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. What are your future plans for Systemology? Like, what's the big vision for down the
You know,
road?
we're doing a few things at the moment. We've really dialed in our business systems accelerator, which focuses on training up systems champions, and the systemologist. Effectively, we haven't got the wording right for it just yet. It's almost like a certificate of completion. I wouldn't say that the systemologists are certifying systems champions, but we're trying to get it to a point where the systemologists can oversee the training of the systems champion that then
Hmm.
remains in the businesses that they work with. So that's kind
Yeah.
of been a nice little adjustment and a nice value add that the systemologists can offer the businesses, because then the business owner can go, oh, wow, I'm really building this capability internally. So that's
Yeah.
something. Other things that we've looked at, we're really integrating systemology more deeply into System Hub. We used to kind of keep them at arm's reach between each other, but the more that we realize that that's a little bit of our 11 herbs and secret spices. So it should be intertwined as much as possible into the software. And we're in the process at the moment of rebuilding the System Hub onboarding to include indoctrination of the team into systems culture. So that way, team members
Mm.
come on board and you're learning not just the software, but why do we do it this way? How do systems improve the work that you're doing and make your job easier? And why would you want to be involved in this?
Yeah. Very cool. Let
Yeah.
me ask you as a final question, oh, I was going to say too, though, if people haven't read your book yet, get the book. It's not showing it very well in my lighting. Here we go. Better. Because yeah, I remember reading this book like right when it came out. It was like, like a breath of fresh air I mean, I know you and I are both like systems minded,
Yes.
system geeks, if you will. But I always love a good system for systems is always a good thing. But yeah, what would you say to someone who's considering the certification model for themselves?
I think the first thing that you need to do is just really prove, because certification, again, depending on how you're positioning it, it's like a business opportunity. So you really want to prove that it's working first for yourself. Like that's the ideal scenario where because you're going to be licensing out this IP and you want to know that that IP works and then it gets a great result, so that you can say hand on heart, follow this and I was able to get this outcome. That's probably the first thing. And then very early on, you want to try and find your um, golden child as quickly as possible, as in the person who takes your material and then becomes a shining example. The sooner you can find them, the better. Like to have a case study client of yours that you can say, well, XYZ, Mary, she took the certification program and then she got this result and she built a really fantastic business off the back of it. I think
Yeah.
really focusing on getting that as early as possible would be helpful. And it's not just, I mentioned it right at the start, it's not dissimilar to any other business. This is not a shortcut. There's a lot
Yeah.
of work that needs to be done, a lot of decisions that need to be made, and you're there to serve your client, and you're going to need to continue to grow and innovate and really dig into what are the challenges, where are they getting stuck, and then how can you solve those and build it into your program as your certification evolves.
Yeah. And even you remind me of that kind of tweak in a way too is like when I'm the person doing the work and delivering to that end user client, that's who my client is. But when
Yes.
you're certifying folks, now your client is the people you're certifying so that they can in turn go and
Yes.
serve those end users. Like it is a distinction, just that concept. You've mentioned this a couple of times. It's like their success is going to be our success. Like if somebody goes through the certification and they're struggling or they're not finding clients or they didn't really understand it or whatever it is, that just points to like, ooh, something to look at here, something to consider. But yeah, that real heart for like making sure that they're successful with what
Yeah.
it is they're learning and becoming certified in.
Another way to think of it is like a franchise system. Like effectively, you are the franchisor, and your
Yeah.
franchisee is effectively your client. And
Yeah.
then, so when you're a franchisor, the way that you get a franchisee to stick around is to get them the result, and you're effectively selling them the system. So I kind of see, and it is a little bit different with franchising versus licensing. There's less when you're going down the franchising route, there's higher standards and you can fix price and people have to operate to the guidelines that you outline. But there's a lot of extra red tape and
Yeah.
in different countries, laws around how you position the franchise. Licensing is there's still elements of it, but the person that you're working with is still independent, and they
Yeah.
will, you set more guidelines and directions and point them in the right direction. But I still try and do my best, even though they are independent. I still want them to be a success because they're my
Yeah.
client. And if they're a success, then they'll tell other people like them and they'll refer people into our business, or that licensee will also continue to stick around. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really important that you deliver on that promise and that result for the licensee.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing about the story. I feel like in so many ways you're just getting started with everything that you're doing with systemology and with the systemologists and system hub and all systemy fun things. So thank you so very much for hanging out and
Yeah,
sharing today, David. All
always a
right.
pleasure. Thanks, Tina.